Body shot. Ooh, that hurt, didn't it?
When adrenaline starts pumping and you know what you can do with this right hand, it's hard to not do that.
Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. It's another week of fights, another episode in the books. You already know what time it is. And listen, we got a little bit of a come down from UFC 266, but nonetheless, we have a great slate of fights on deck. We got a little Bellator action as well, and a couple upcoming fights that we definitely need to preview. But of course, joining me, as always, is my co-host, the New Mexico native, the Santa Fe bomber himself, AJ. What's happening, brother? How's the week treating you?
Man, Derick, it's good, man. There's apparently there's a hurricane somewhere close by because it's raining like a mother over here in Austin, Texas. It's humid. We're back to that. I got a little reprieve from the heat, but we're back again, man. And life's treating me good, my brother. How you doing?
Awesome. I'm doing good, man. I will say, stay safe out there, right? At least hunker down, watch some good Vikes football, all that good stuff. Y'all coming off of a great win against the Seahawks. Raiders 3-0. You know what time it is. Come on, we already rocking here. Hopefully you picked up a win in fantasy, man, because I definitely dropped the ball this week. But nonetheless, when we're talking about fights, AJ, you got to remember, I'm coming off of that perfect 5-0, man. So both of us, I think we're going to have to really see what counts here today because we've been a little contrarian in some parts, but there's some very 50-50 matchups in there. And there's also a couple of matchups where the odds might not make the most sense. So we definitely going to have to, break that down in one moment. But folks, I just want to give you the reminder before we get into things, drop a like, subscribe, rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And drop a comment. Even if you just commented to say, hey, this is a comment. It doesn't matter, man. We got to trick the algorithm, get the boosts up, get the views up and all that good stuff. But the point here is to let the good folks at home who haven't found out about us yet, or the people who probably are looking for a good source of betting information or just an analysis of the fight game, they could find us and they could make some green. Like I said, I went 5-0, AJ went 3-2. Just look at the records that we got on here. Both of us over 500. And if you're over 500, you're making some green. You already dig. All right, rants aside. AJ, my man, listen, before we get into the sleepers and all that good stuff, there's a couple of just things on the prelims I just kind of wanted to point out to you, man. So first, a fight that I thought was originally on the main card, but I think it got bumped down to the prelims. It's Joe Salecki versus Jared Gordon. It is a lightweight contest that I think has very heavy implications, man. Jared Gordon is a guy where, he's often undercounted, man. I think that he trains over there with like the Paul Felders in the world or things of that nature, if I'm accurate on that one. But nonetheless, he's a really good wrestler. Joe Salecki's really good on the ground, man. What do you think about this matchup?
It's you're right. I think it did move down from the main card, but it's our highlighted prelim fight. It's the main event of the prelims, and it's a banger, man. It's a huge implications in the 155-pound division. It's a couple guys who aren't really known. The names don't really ring a bell to a lot of people, especially in the stacked 155-pound division. But it's gonna be fun, man. And you want to see some real deal technique, man? Go check out Joe Salecki. He's a banger. Absolutely, man. Also, Antonina Shevchenko facing off against Casey King O'Neill. Now, my question to you on this one, man, is do you think they're high-rolling Casey O'Neill a little bit too fast? Like, listen, big sister Shevchenko, man, she's a problem. Look at the shirt that I got on. I got the younger sister on right now. I got the Bullet, Valentina, man. But Antonina is nothing to be played with, man. She over there flying planes, doing a whole nine, kicking people's heads off their shoulders, man. What do you think about this that matchup right there, AJ? I definitely think they're maybe not throwing Casey O'Neill to the dogs, but they're throwing her deep in water right there, man, especially early. 7-0. She is early in her career, but definitely early in the UFC as well, man. It's going to be very interesting to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, for real, man. She could be in deep waters, could be in bloody water, man. You never know. Come on. Shout out to the pod right there, man. And then we got a couple other good ones. Stephanie Edgar versus Shannon Young is one that, folks, I think you should watch out for. It's not a sleeper of either of ours today, but it's definitely one you should watch out for. And ultimately, man, Douglas Silva de Andraj, if you want to talk about a power fighter, he's getting his shot right here against Piriello, man. So should be a good one. Watch the prelims, folks. That's my main takeaway that I got for you guys. Watch the prelims because you never know. There's a lot of fighters who are kind of making their way onto the scene right now. So you definitely get a head start in terms of the betting lines for their future fights if you check them out. Now, nonetheless, let's talk about AJ before we get into sleepers. Once again, 2 more fights that we need to just preview really quickly, man. Kyoto Yan versus Corey Sandhagen was announced for the Bantamweight interim title. And I wanted to ask you on this one, man. Does this the UFC overtly saying, all right, Aljo Sterling, you truly are a paper champ. You really shouldn't be here. We're not even going to give you the time to recover from your neck surgery. We're basically just going to keep this train moving because Kyoto Yan is the fight to make. Corey Sandhagen has a lot of steam. The Bantamweight division is just on fire, man. Tell me what you think.
Man, you're right, Derick. The Bantamweight is absolutely on fire. It's kind of cosmic justice, man. I feel like this is where the world should have been. Like, the title should have been versus Piotr Yan versus Corey Sandhagen if Sandhagen didn't shoot himself in the foot, and then if Piotr Yan didn't knee Aljo in the head.
Yeah.
But that's besides the point. Especially, I do think that they're kind of just, everybody's a little over the Aljamain Sterling look, and they're fine with him. Like, oh, you don't want to fight? Cool, we're on to the next. So it's good to see that the UFC's keeping it moving. Sucks for Aljo, but you know what it is, man. You just got to stay fighting if you want to be relevant.
Absolutely. Let me just ask you this question, man, because I do feel like in a way, though, yeah, cosmic justice, all that good stuff, but I do feel like in a way, Aljo's a little undercounted, disrespected, man, like in terms of how great of a fighter he is. So let's say this Piotr Yan situation never happened, right? Let's just say Sterling lost the fight. It was what it was, and he never got the championship and all that. I feel like he wouldn't have the level of hate that he has today if he didn't have that belt around his waist. Legitimately, like, this dude is a stud. We know he is. He put the backpack on Sandhagen himself, man. This dude has lost to very few people. So overall, can you admit he is, I don't know about a great fighter, but a really, really, really good fighter, man. Like a top 5 in the bantamweight, truly through and through. Am I right on that?
Oh, yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. I definitely think he would have had more respect, like in the eyes of everybody, or at least less hate. He would have had a lot less haters if it wouldn't have gone down the way it did. But honestly, man, I think the haters are good for him because he might be coming back with a vengeance, especially now that they're kind of shunning him to the side and kind of discounting him going forward. Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, man. I think it's gonna be interesting to see how he does come back, but you know, he is. I would say though, Aljo Sterling is a great fighter. He is really, really good on what he does. Especially, like you said, putting the backpack on Sandhagen. He didn't look that good against Piotr Yan, but that was like the one time where we've seen him not really look that good. Man, I would go great fighter.
Well, listen, man, it's hard to look good against Piotr Yan, right? This dude steamrolls almost everybody in his path. Now, really what it comes down to here is that for Aljamain Sterling, man, I do think that this could play into his advantage, you know, and what I mean by that is I feel like he's being so discounted right now. People are being like, oh, Yan is just going to beat the brakes off you, whatever, you know, all these dudes are like, they're just going to fuck you up, right? I'm just like, damn, man, like, in a way, it's kind of been flipped to now he might have that secret momentum going into it. I don't know. We'll see what happens, man. But definitely really, really interesting. I just wanted to draw this parallel right here to how they did the Cyril Gane versus Derek Lewis kind of interim belt fight, right? And they're just like, all right, Ngannou, if you're not going to fight, we're just going to keep moving past you, man. It's just crazy how the UFC works, but nonetheless. And then lastly, AJ, we have a welterweight bout that's coming up actually on the day that we drop in this episode, October 1st, Friday, right? We got number 1 ranked Douglas Lehman, the welterweight division, rematching MVP Michael Venom Page, man, taking place at the Wembley Arena in London. And really what I wanted to talk about on this one, obviously great matchup. MVP, he got knocked out the first time, even though he was having some success in the first round, What does this mean, AJ, that Bellator is able to host an event in London internationally and the UFC hasn't been able to do that? Are we kind of slow rolling our way towards opening back up international events, or do you think this is simply just like a one-timer for Bellator? What do you think?
Man, I hope we're kind of steamrolling our way back that way. I do think it's interesting that Bellator was able to get it done before the UFC, though. That's interesting. I don't know where Bellator's main headquarters are. They might be in London. They might be somewhere. But, yeah, I mean, I hope it's that way. But it kind of really still seems like it's just a one-off, really. They're kind of testing the waters. Is it full capacity out there in London, or is it...
I don't know if it's going to be full capacity, and I did read something where it's like everybody who's attending has to be vaccinated, so probably won't be full capacity for that reason. But nonetheless, I just think that is a very eye-opening sign right there, man. It's a little glimmer of hope that says like, hey, man, normalcy is kind of coming back just a little bit, man. It's going to be fun, but that's really what I wanted to talk about on that one. We'll see how the fight plays out. We don't need to break it down. We got a lot of UFC action to cover here today, man. So let's get into it, man. Folks, watch out. We got a lot of fights this weekend, all that good stuff, man. So, all right, AJ, let's move on to...
It's time for some fight night. If you ain't paying attention, you're gonna sleep on me and I'm gonna wake you up.
Sleepers, man. We got really good ones here today, man. Really good ones that I failed to mention when I was talking about a couple of those prelims. So, AJ, the one that you picked, I want to start with because I wanted to pick this, but you picked it first. So here we go, man. Devonte Smith versus Jamie Mullarkey over here in the 155-pound division, brother. Talk to me, man. What opened your eye? I know what opened my eyes to this one, but what made you say, like, God damn it, this is going to be a sleeper right here? Talk to me, brother.
Bro, this is one of those fights where we're seeing the young guns in the division put on show right here, man. Mullarkey is scrappy, lightning quick hands, finished 11 of his last dubs. This dude is legit, and he's young in the game. That's the biggest thing. He's young in the game. Both these dudes are super young in the game. Same thing with Devonte Smith. But Mullarkey might not have the power to get things done, but he's that sniper we love seeing. Mm-hmm. You know, he'll touch you on the button, drop you real quick. And the crazy thing is he started off a wrestler, man. He's a wrestler who fell in love with his hands, and he's been getting it done, man. Once he gets in that groove, you know, he did lose his first 2 UFC, but once he gets in that groove, man, he's basically unstoppable. Very much a wrestler who fell in love with striking, and he's really, really good at striking too, so you got to watch out for him. Devonte Smith, he's a pressure fighter with a ton of power. So we got the sniper with not so much power versus the bulldog with a ton of power. Going to go head-to-head, man. I like Devonte Smith because he has a long jab, and when the jab does damage, you know he hits hard, all right? Down to trade shots. He loads up. He telegraphs his power a little bit, but it doesn't matter when you're just dropping bombs on people and they can't stop it, all right? Not known for his wrestling, so we're going to see how well he does, but he does have sneaky submissions, so you got to watch out. You can't just take this dude to the ground and expect nothing to happen. He can tap you out, all right? I'm expecting Mullarkey to look to wrestle while Smith looks to control the distance, keep things on the feet, but we'll see how it goes because Mullarkey can drop that bomb as well, man. What opened your eyes to this one, Derick?
I'll tell you, Devonte Smith, 10 of those 11 wins coming via knockout. The other one coming via a triangle. That's what opened my eyes right here. Let's not forget, man, this dude had I think he had like a knee surgery or something crazy happen to him just a couple of fights back. He came back. People are a little tentative, being like, I don't know, man. You know, surgery. He might be a little slow, might not come back right. Won his fight via knockout. What are we talking about here, man? So it's that missile of a right hand that's ready to explode. It's him being so fast with a 76-inch reach, which is really long for the 155-pound division. And it's those underrated grappling chops you were talking about, man. Now, Jamie Mullarkey, man, why I like this guy is because, one, incredible name right there. You gotta love that. But two, listen, man, this dude is as tough as they come. He's got crispy head movement, man, and that check left hook, man. What are we talking about? How did he win his last fight? Knocked him out on the button, left hook, get the fuck out of here, right? So ultimately, man, his 6 first-round finishes are going to make this fight really interesting because Devonte Smith is a quick finisher as well, man. Both of these dudes are fast starters. But you're right, Mullarkey came up as a wrestler. He can wrestle whenever need be. And when it comes down to it, at the end of the day here, AJ, man, these are 2 young guns who are probably, in my opinion, going to meet up again in the future. That's how good these 2 prospects are. So I think this is going to be a really, really fun matchup in the lightweight division, which is super duper stacked as always. Bantamweight, lightweight, featherweight, literally all these smaller divisions are crazy right now. So that's going to be a banger, man. But this next sleeper that I got right here, AJ, man, is going to be a banger for different reasons. And the reason why I picked this one is because, one, you must pay respect to the OGs of the game, the people who built this game. And that's why my sleeper is coming in the women's bantamweight division. We got Bethe Correia facing off against Karol Rosa. Now, if you know anything about Bethe Correia, you know she is a blood and guts fighter. She is coming to take your head off every single time. Now, in her last 5, hasn't been very, very successful, right? You know, she's 1-3-1 in her last 5. So not very good. And this is also her retirement fight, which was actually originally slated to take place against Wu Yanan a couple months back. But Bethe Correia had to pull out due to whatever reasons, you know, that's neither here nor there. So Karol Rosa, folks, if you've listened to this program, you've heard me talk about her probably over the course, like a year ago, year and a half ago, something like that. However, the duration of this program has been going. I've been talking about her for a long time. One of the best kickers in the women's bantamweight division. She got real wrestling chops, but that's the key right there, AJ. I wanted to ask you what you thought about Karol Rosa's kicking game right there, man, because she's like a Jose Aldo of the women's bantamweight division almost, man. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a good comparison right there, Derek. Carol Hosa is mean with the kicks, and what I like too is that she doesn't mind getting her legs grabbed so she can scrap up on the ground as well, man. Very fast as well, and sometimes you're not going to see it because she'll hit you with that switch, no problem too, man.
Yeah, for real, man. So let me ask you this, though, man. I felt a little bad at first because I'm like, okay, OG of the game. I just talked about paying respect, paying homage to the OGs, right? The UFC paid almost zero homage or respect to Bethe Correia by saying, hey, retirement fight, let me give you Carol Hosa, a dark horse of the women's bantamweight division. One of the people who don't have a high ranking next to their name. She is a top 15, but let's just say, man, she's really fucking good, and I think a lot of people do not want to fight Carol Hosa. Also, Carol Hosa, I think she has pulled out of a ridiculous amount of fights in the last year or so, man. So also a little troubling there. But 6 of her 14 wins are via stoppage, man. So she can go decision, she can wrestle you up, she can knock you out, she can do whatever the case may be. Bethe Correia, man, is this going to be the blood and guts fighter who's ending out on a high note? AJ, quick prediction. Is she ending out on a high note, man, or is she going out blood and gut style, classic Bethe Correia style? What do you think?
I think she might go out on her shield on this one, my man.
Yeah.
I really think so, especially because Carol Hosa is mean in there too. What I like about Bethe Correia, excuse me, whenever her opponent's coming in, she sits on her punches and starts either swinging and banging, or she'll sit down and duck under for the shot.
Yeah.
Either way, it's going to be kind of hard against Carol Hosa. So it'll be a fun fight regardless, but I definitely think maybe out on her shield on this one.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you, but I will say if we're doing best case scenario, if you're a true, real deal, hardcore Bethe Correia fan, you're hoping for a knockout, one that has not come in her career since 2014. That was the last time Bethe Correia knocked somebody out. Nonetheless, should be fun one. 11-5-1 is Bethe Correia. She had a really good career in the UFC. 14-3 is Carol Hosa. Should be a good one, folks. But that's enough of the sleepers. Let's talk some main card.
Here's to another main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
Yes, sir. So, AJ, man, we're going to start off this contest, which is something I believe, this has to be short notice or something, man. Mike Bredon is making his UFC debut. He lost his fight on the Contender Series last year in 2020, and he's facing off against a dude who has had a very hot start in the UFC, right? But then has kind of simmered down, his alternated win-loss. But nonetheless, he should not be played with. He should not be toyed with. This is a killer he's stepping in there against in Alexander the Great Hernandez, who opens up as a minus 500 favorite with the comeback of plus 380 on Mike Money Bredon, man. So let's start off with Mike Bredon. Interesting character. Blood and guts fighter as well, man. I wanted to say the one thing that stood out to me from watching film on him is this dude is tough, bro. Like, he eats shots. In that Dana White Contender Series matchup, man, both legs were getting crippled, and he was still walking forward like a savage. And I'm like, it's so hard to do that when you're literally limping. You're like, oh shit, man, I can't walk, but I'm still walking forward, and I'm gonna whoop your ass. And it reminds me of a fight that took place a couple of weeks back where it was basically the same situation. I don't remember the fighters' names, unfortunately, but this dude was, or actually it was Ryan Benoit. There we go. Ryan Benoit. Do you remember his fight? I think it was, I don't know if it was against Derick Adeshev. It might have been, or maybe it was the fight before that, but his legs were getting tore up, but he was still pushing the pressure. He was the one that was following the other dude around the cage. And he was saying, listen, man, I could be on a broken leg. And I think he did break his leg in that fight. He's like, I could be on a broken leg and I'm still going to push the action. That type of fighter, I really respect. What do you think, AJ?
Yeah, man, Mike Bredon, he's an absolute dog in there too. And I think one of the things I was watching his Dana White Contender Series fight, and his coach was saying he's fighting at Glory MMA too. I don't remember exactly which coach it was. But either way, regardless, they were saying that he's a crowd favorite fighter, and that is the truth, man. He's down to bring the absolute war and great kicks as well. He does what I like to, or I guess what I like seeing, but it's kind of not as good for him as a fighter. He'll sit there and take pictures once he does land a couple shots. So he's very much down to trade, down for the war, and he likes volume too, man. So you're looking for volume strikes all day long with this cat, man. Mike Bredon, it's interesting to see. I'm sure it's a late minute replacement because he did get the L on the Dana White Contender Series. Usually they don't get a contract after that. But this one's going to be a fun one, man, especially against Alexander Hernandez, who's also very much the same, kind of growing into where he wants to be in the future. Mike Bredon's up for a hell of a task, Derek. What you think?
Well, I will say, just speaking on the Dana White Contender Series type situation. So one thing that is a new revelation that Dana White has been talking about, he was like, listen, man, if you lose on the Contender Series, even if you win and we don't sign you, go win a couple fights in other promotions. And then if you do string some good wins together, we'll sign you to the UFC. That's like the unspoken agreement that they're starting to have, right? So I'm not super surprised that he's here and he's making his UFC debut, because UFC is signing more fighters than ever because of COVID and all that good stuff. But yeah, man, he's patient on the feet, very tough, walks through the fire, but he has very little head movement, and I think that's going to be an issue when you're fighting Alexander Hernandez, who has a, let's just say, a crispy right cross, man. I'll tell you what. And I think it was against Chris Grutzmacher, man. He was just hitting him with the 1-2 all day. 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, landing him, man. He's heavy on that lead leg, which might spell a couple of issues because Mike Bredon has good calf kicks and good body kicks. But nonetheless, when we're talking about levels, man, I think they're just on two different levels personally. So it's evident why Mike Bredon is a plus 380 underdog here. However, Alexander Hernandez seems to have had more of a mental lapse in his fight style than he has a physical one, man. This dude is a physical specimen. He's chiseled like an Adonis, man. He looks like a Greek god in there. But what do you think happened in his last fight against Thiago Moises, and do you think that's going to translate to this fight against Mike Bredon?
I just think he struggles with the elite fighters, and I definitely agree with you. I think it's a mental thing. I mean, he's Alexander Hernandez is quickly becoming a veteran of the game, but it seems like he's not necessarily fighting his fight when he gets in there against the top of the, the cream of the crop in there, man. He does, and everything looks good. His punches, his kicks, especially against Thiago Moises, he was smart. He was defending the takedown. He had the good stance for it. It just wasn't quite working. Thiago Moises was able to, counter everything, see everything coming. It looked like he was just Alexander Hernandez was just a step behind. I don't think that's going to be the case with this one coming up, though.
Yeah, hopefully not. I think that if he wants to win the fight, and when he's at his best, he's pushing the pressure. He is the guy who's walking in there. But there's this thing that's interesting, and I've been studying a lot of these boxing coaches who are talking about certain ranges, right? And they're like, there's a certain range that you fight if you're a certain height. And it's interesting because I never really thought about it like that. But Alexander Hernandez, the difference between versus Grutzmacher versus Moises is that he stood outside, kind of at kicking range versus Moises, while he was in boxing range against Grutzmacher. And I think that's the big difference, is when his opponent earns his respect, right? So Moises earns the respect of Hernandez. It takes him a really long time to actually say, I'm going to close this distance. I'm going to walk through the fire, right? Where Mike Bredon is not scared to walk through the fire. So there's always that chance. Like anyone got a puncher's chance in this one, man. But when we're talking about well-roundedness, I think it would be a little, it'd be kind of smart for Hernandez to try to mix it up and wrestle a little bit in this fight, man. That's a big strength of his as well. And sometimes it feels like he just doesn't want to use it. Do you think wrestling is going to come into place in terms of this matchup?
I definitely think it should if you're Alexander Hernandez. Not so much Mike Bredon. I don't really see him going for much of any takedowns. But Alexander Hernandez, the thing is, I think he wants that payday. So he's looking for the haymakers, man. He's looking for the KO shots. He's really looking for the hands to start throwing. Yeah, you're right, Derick. And very much an up and down fighter. So he can take place wherever this fight can take place. He's good. Alexander Hernandez can do it. It's just if his mental game is cleared up enough to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I want to ask you this just about the evolution of Alexander Hernandez. Is this surprising to you? Because a lot of people don't know this and a lot of people forgot about this. Would it be a crazy thing to say if I told you, hey, man, did you know of the very few people who have been able to not only defeat but knock out Beneil Dariush? Alexander Hernandez is one of them.
Really? How early in the day? Back when?
It was his UFC debut. So this was just a couple years ago. Yeah, man. Ooh. So that's what I'm talking about. But that's the craziness about it, where it's like you start off on a really high note. He's got wins over fighters like Beneil Dariush, Olivier Aubin-Mercier, Francisco Trinaldo, Chris Grutzmacher. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's got wins over big fighters. But then losses against Moises, loss against Drew Dober, loss against Cowboy Cerrone. We remember that Cowboy Cerrone fight where everyone thought Hernandez was going to steamroll him, and then what happened? Papa Cerrone came through and said, no, not today, right? I do think at the end of the day for this one, man, Mike Bredon has his work cut out for him, truly. He has 8 knockout wins, 0 submission wins, 2 decision wins. So if he doesn't knock him out, he's going to have to outpoint him. And Alexander Hernandez, I think, is going to be motivated. He's going to be confident. And to me, don't get me wrong, AJ, this kind of seems like one of those fights to build the confidence of Alexander Hernandez, to say, all right, man, we're going to give you a little bit of a step down in competition, because he's fought legit killers. So I'll give you a little bit of a step down in competition, let you get your confidence, your mojo back a little bit, man, and then we'll keep high rolling you, man. So ultimately, I know I've said ultimately a lot, but we're going to finally conclude on this one. -500 Alexander Hernandez. Are you rocking with that one?
Yeah, I'm rocking with Hernandez. I'm going KO round one. I agree. I think this is one of those fights where they're like, all right, bro, you got to get this dub, get your confidence back. And if he doesn't, you're going to start seeing the decline of Alexander Hernandez, or maybe not, he's not going to get cut off of this one, but it's definitely going to be a very strict asterisk on his mark, man.
Yeah, I will say Alexander Hernandez is 4-3 in the UFC, so if he loses, he's going to go to 500. If he wins, that's the direction he needs to go, and I'm rocking with Alexander Hernandez on this one as well. I think it might be a little close in the beginning just because Mike Bredon with that, I'm just going to walk through the flames. I love the mentality, but I do think it is going to land to a big knockout win for Hernandez. I'm going KO round 2 on this one, but I still am impressed by Mike Bredon, man. I just think you got to be a little more technical when you're fighting a monster like Alexander Hernandez. So before we move on, folks, drop a like, subscribe, all the good stuff. Rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. You know what time it is. All right, AJ. So this next matchup we got right here. This one got some heat behind it, brother. We got number 3 ranked Aspen Ladd, who comes in as a -240 favorite against the +200 underdog and number 11th ranked Macy Chiasson in the women's bantamweight division, man. AJ, this fight was supposed to take place a couple weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago, right? And Macy Chiasson had to pull out like the day of the fight due to an illness, or probably the day before, one or the other. Now, Aspen Ladd has been, quote unquote, flapping her lips, man, flapping her trap, talking kind of crazy, saying, "Oh, Chiasson, man, she looked fine to me when she was walking. She didn't look hurt. She didn't look sick, and all that good stuff," which is a little uncharitable, right? It's kind of when you're taking the most, like, "Oh, they're scared. They don't want to fight me." I don't know if she's just trying to get in her head, but is it not telling that Aspen Ladd is talking kind of, shit to Macy Chiasson for this, when back in Tough 25 finale, Aspen Ladd had to pull out the day of the fight against Jessica I due to an illness, right? So basically the same thing. A little bit of hypocrisy. Macy Chiasson has already called her out for her hypocrisy, excuse me. But I want to know your take on that, man. Is that a little classless? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little classless. I feel like when the shoe's on the other foot, you should know better. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it is a little bit of a mental game. They're kind of just getting back and forth. And ultimately, she's going to have to deal with what she says, man. So talk all the shit you want. When that door closes, it's time to settle it.
And that's why we love MMA, right? Because that is truly the name of the game. Nothing is off limits because you're going to settle that beef when you're locked inside of that cage. So say what you want, man, but you're going to pay the fucking price, hopefully, right? But this is still going to be a really fun matchup because they got 2 contrasts of styles. You got a tall fighter versus a short fighter, a long fighter versus a not long fighter, a ground and pound machine versus a wrestler. You got a MMA gold fighter versus a Fortis MMA fighter. So I want to start off with Macy Chiasson, man. I thought she was on a real hot streak, man. I picked her against Marion Renault, and she got the dub on that one. She got the dub against Shannon Young. She's been on a hot streak, man. She's 4-1 in her last 5, but she's fought a little bit differently in her last couple of fights than how we're accustomed to. Normally, I'm not going to use my length. I'm just going to walk through, and I'm just going to try to just punch your face off, clinch you up, knee you in the face, all that good stuff, and try to get the early finish. But recently, she even said it. I believe it was against Renault or it was versus Shannon Young, but she was all like, "Yeah, I didn't want to end it early. I wanted to test myself and go 3 rounds to prove to myself that I could do that stuff, man." Do you think that fighters are actively thinking about that while they're fighting, or do you think maybe they just decided to do a different game plan? You can do that, but also, don't you want the early finish? Isn't that kind of part of the game? What do you think?
I think it's kind of part of the game. I also think it's a little bit of gamesmanship. You didn't get the early finish. You say, "Nah, I didn't want the early finish. It's all good. I didn't want that submission. I wanted this. I wanted that." It could also be a coaching strategy telling them, "Hey, we do want, don't gas out right early quick. We want to see how you do later on. We're really going to test it here." But I mean, at the end of the day, you test that fire a little too much, you catch a KO real quick. It's better to always get it done early instead of play with it.
No, you're absolutely right about that. So for Aspen Ladd, man, she's been so good. She's 9-1, and that one loss that she has was against the Iron Lady, Germaine de Randamie, right? Which a lot of people say was a very quick stoppage, man. Maybe the fight should have took place a little bit longer. But for Aspen Ladd, man, I think she's a problem in this fight. And I think that where she lacks kind of in that stand-up game, I mean, she has a really good left hook, don't get me wrong, but where she kind of lacks in that stand-up game, as long as she gets the fight to the ground, that ground and pound is ferocious. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. The only other person who I can kind of compare is like a Macy Barber. When she gets on the ground and starts going crazy, right? Macy Chiasson, her one pretty much big weakness is getting put on the ground. Now, she's been working on it a lot. Don't get me wrong, man. She's definitely made advancements, improvements, and when she gets on top, she has legit top control. But when she's fighting off of her back, man, I think it's a problem, not just for Chiasson, but for anybody in the women's bantamweight division who isn't named Germaine de Randamie, right? So let me ask you this. Do you think Macy Chiasson, which her main game is being taller, using the big knees and all that stuff, keeps the fight on the outside, just tries to pick her apart, you know what I mean, at distance? Or do you think inevitably the Macy Chiasson style, she walks forward, smothers her attack a little bit, Aspen Ladd grabs her, get her on the ground and pound for the finish? How do you see this fight playing out?
Yeah, I'm expecting Ladd to lead the dance on this one a little bit. I'm expecting Chiasson to fight from the outside, try to maintain that distance, but at the end of the day, Ladd's going to push in to try to get that takedown, where Chiasson's going to start working her clinch game. She's really good in the clinch. Being so tall, it's easy to get it done, but at the same point, you start throwing knees up, Aspen Ladd's going to work for that takedown. I definitely see this one going to the ground for sure. We're going to see how well Macy Chiasson has actually improved on the ground game, but it's a tall task, pardon the pun, because of Macy Chiasson to actually get her down. And Aspen Ladd, she's out on the ground, it's a rough game from then on out, man. How do you see this one playing out, Derick?
Well, I definitely see Aspen Ladd getting the fight to the ground, ultimately. I think that's going to be the big goal. Because when we're looking at it, man, she has a 75% takedown accuracy. She almost lands 2.5 takedowns per fight. And if we're talking about takedown defense for Macy Chiasson, 64%. It's been a little lacking as of late, but I think she's been working to find a way to get back up to her feet, man. Even if she does get taken down, she's going to figure out a way to get back up to the feet, which is important. The question is, which Macy Chiasson is going to show up on Saturday? That's really my big question. Is what made this really, really difficult to pick, because I'm a big Chiasson fan. Like, if you notice, I picked her for her last couple of fights because I love the style, the intensity, the ferocity of her. But when she showed up patient, I was like, ooh, that's not really what I was expecting. And against Aspen Ladd, you're going to have to bring it, because she has this real meek, calm demeanor pre-fight, right? She steps into that cage as a completely different animal. It's Aspen Ladd saying, I'm walking forward, I'm going to scream, I'm going to knock your head off your shoulders. So like I said, you already pointed it out. Aspen Ladd isn't very great in the clinch. Chiasson, her big advantage is the clinch. Aspen Ladd's very good on the ground. Chiasson, her kind of weakness is the ground. So it just depends on which fighter is going to say, you're going to fight my fight versus the other way around, I think is the big catalyst for this. Now, when we're talking about notable wins, AJ, I think that Aspen Ladd's last win is going to be very telling for how this fight's going to play out. I mean, her last one, she TKO'd Yana Kunitskaya. What's Yana Kunitskaya's game? Clinch you up, big knees. Basically, Macy Chiasson 2.0, right? And if she could work that same game plan, I think it'll be very effective. But she does have 2 wins over Sijara Eubanks, a win over Yana Kunitskaya, and a win over Lena Landsberg. Now, for Macy Chiasson, win over Marion Renault, Gina Mazzani, shout out Glory MMA right there, Pani Kianzad, and Shannon Young. And she also has a loss against Lena Landsberg. So we brought this up. We talked about basically the same thing a couple weeks ago when we were previewing this fight, but how do you see this fight? I mean, who are you picking this fight for, man? Both of these fighters are on win streaks. 1 win for Aspen Ladd, 2 wins for Chiasson, but how do you see it going out, man? Who wins in this one?
Man, I'm on this one, man. I'm excited for this one because it's going to be, like you said, whoever wins the day. Whoever the better lady is that day, it's going to be a good fight for them. It's going to be a rough one because styles really make this match, man. But personally, I'm going with the buzzsaw Aspen Ladd, bro. I love the way she comes into fights. Like you said, she has a cool, calm demeanor in the beginning, but then she absolutely just she's screaming. She's punching in the face. She's trying to get those elbows going. She's very aggressive. And we always talk about the new breed of fighter in the heavyweight division, in the men's heavyweight division. But I feel like Aspen Ladd is a new breed of fighter in the women's division, Derick. Sure. And she's very mean, looks for the finish. Not too many women can get it done where Aspen Ladd does get it done very often. I'm going Aspen Ladd with the TKO round 2. I think it's going to be a fun, very fast fight in the beginning. Slow down a little bit, but she's going to get that dub at the end, man. What you got?
Well, I think it's very impressive that Aspen Ladd has been able to come back after having an ACL and an MCL tear in her knee, right? And being able to come back and still smash, right? Because I think I picked against her in the Kunitskaya fight because I'm like, the knee, his issue, right? You always got issues when it's a knee stuff going on, and she just basically dismantled Yana Kunitskaya. Third round, what was crazy, it was the third round, Yana Kunitskaya staring at her, that death stare, that Maheta stare, where she's just like, all right, we're going to get it. Aspen Ladd walks forward, drops her with the left hook, finishes the fight, just like that. And I was like, ooh, Aspen Ladd, man, you are a dangerous fighter. Great top control, all the fun stuff, man. I'm going Aspen Ladd on this one. I'm going Aspen Ladd TKO round 2. I think that the ground and pound is just going to be a little bit too much for Macy Chiasson, and I feel bad saying that because, like I said, I'm a big fan of Macy Chiasson, and I do think that Saif Saud is going to play a large factor in the motivation, getting all that good stuff, yelling at her, hey, man, you need to do this, you need to do that, all that, all the great verbiage from Saif Saud. So Both of these fighters are busy fighters, man. 5 significant strikes landed for Aspen Ladd per 15 and 4, per minute, excuse me. Nonetheless, should be a good one. Let's move on to the next one, AJ. Or actually, before we move on to the next one, I just want to ask you a very quick question. Do you think people should be taking the plus 200 kind of flyer on Macy Chiasson? Do you think that there's any value in that betting line?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I think that's a pretty good bet right there. And plus 200, I mean, this Macy Chiasson, she shows up on the day and she's able to not be taken down. It's going to be an easy dub for her. Maybe not easy dub, but it's good money.
So if she could exert her fight plan, this is one of the lines that I was looking at where I was like, plus 200? I don't know. It might be a little too high. Maybe it should be a little more closer to even on that one. But all right, AJ, this next one, man, I'm so excited for this one. And maybe I shouldn't be, but I really am. So we got number 13th ranked Misha Cirkunov, man, who is making his middleweight debut against Krzysztof Jotko. And Cirkunov opens up as a plus 135 underdog against the minus 160 favorite in Krzysztof Jotko. So I need to ask you this, AJ. Jotko, he could wrestle. He has a lot of success wrestling against some of the smaller guys, right? Cirkunov is a big boy, though, man. Like I said, he's coming down from 205. This is literally his UFC 185-pound debut. He is literally known for taking the fight to the ground, submitting his opponents, and right off the bat, AJ, I see value in that plus 135. I see so much value in that because Jotko, while he's a very technical boxer, like I said, he got the wrestling chops, don't get me wrong, but if you just smother him like the way Cirkunov does to the rest of his opponents, get him in these crazy submissions and whatnot, or just control the fight and win on points like that, that's like the easiest 135 you could pick. Why do you think Jotko is a minus 160 favorite in this matchup, AJ?
I think it has to be recency bias on this one. Jotko did look good in his last fight against Sean Strickland. He didn't get it done, but he looked really, really good. And you think of Misha Cirkunov, when his last, he's very up and down. He's battling, but this was, like you said, it was in the 205-pound division class. So I definitely think it's a little bit of recency bias. The big guy's going to be cutting down. He's maybe feeling a little, not as strong, underpowered. Maybe the chin isn't there. All those issues that come with the big weight cut. But man, Misha Cirkunov at 135 plus, that's a hell of a line right there. You definitely got to take that if you're betting on this one. And he's an absolute dog on the ground, man. You want to talk about ground game specialist. Misha Cirkunov can get it done, whether it's offensive wrestling or, defensive Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He can tap you out. He can ground and pound. This dude is trouble. And not only that, but on the feet, he has this sneaky left kick, man. It's either going to hit you low, it's going to hit you in the calf, it's going to hit you in the head. Misha Cirkunov knows how to get it done in multiple ways. It's just going to be interesting how to see he gets it done in the 185-pound division, man.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. And when you're talking about recency bias, that's what confused me. Because I was like, okay, Jotko's coming off of a loss. Yes, he beat Eric Anders, who is kind of that prototype of like a Cirkunov style. But Cirkunov is way more takedown heavy. He has a way better, beautiful power wrestling game. And listen, man, he's got those heavy body kicks that set up the takedowns. Because you don't want to take too much of those. You put your hands down. He's either coming over the top with the head kick or with the big punch, or he's coming in for that blast double. What's interesting, man, is you look at the people he's fought. It's kind of hard to knock him for the losses, right? For Cirkunov. Losses in his last 5 against Glover Teixeira. He's happens to be fighting for the 205 belt next. Okay. Johnny Walker. That's a dude who can knock out anybody with a single punch. We already know this, right? Ryan Spann. I mean, come on. Ryan Spann, what are we talking about here, right? Listen, he's a killer as well. And the wins he has is against Patrick Cummins, which is a big win, submitted him, and for Jimmy Crute, submitted him. And I think when he submitted Jimmy Crute, it was with a Peruvian necktie. So that goes to show the acumen of his Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Matt Cirkunov is a savage, man. And I got to respect it to the utmost, man. When you're able to get in there with the big boys, that's a bigger threat, AJ. Fighting at 205, deciding to take your opponent down and then get on your back and go for submissions against a dude like a Jimmy Crute who could just smash your face in. Against 205ers, I think that's why he probably moved down to 185, because he could have a more aggressive grappling game without the fear of I will get knocked out with one punch if I slip up, right? So with that being said, AJ, we got the switch fighter in Cirkunov. We got the southpaw in Krzysztof Jotko. How long do you think Jotko will be able to keep this fight on the feet before Cirkunov gets it to the ground?
Ooh, I'm going minute and a half, man. Minute and a half. I think it's going to be quick. And especially because Misha Cirkunov, man, he's smart. He's very, very smart. And once the chaos starts flying, once the mix-em-up actually happens, that's where Cirkunov shines the most to me, man. You make one little mistake, Cirkunov going to capitalize it. He's going to get you back. He's going to stay on top of you. He's going to start ground and pound, working his fight, man. What do you think? 1.5 plus or minus, what you think?
I'm going plus, and the reason why is because I think Cirkunov might be able to get the blast double and get Jotko on his back, but I think Jotko will probably be able to get up, right? You know what I mean? So it's one of those where it's like, you know what I'm saying, where it's like, it's a takedown, but not really because he didn't keep them there. They got right back up to their feet. So I think it'll be one of those, and I think it'll be the later rounds when those takedowns will start sticking. And I think that's how, and to be honest with you, man, I'm going to give an early prediction. I think Cirkunov is going to have to edge this one out via decision because I think Jocko is very skilled. Don't get me wrong. He is by no means a slouch, right? I think it's easy to say, oh yeah, Cirkunov just walks in and submits him easy. You know what I'm saying? It could totally happen, but it could totally not happen. I mean, Jocko in his 27 career fights has only been submitted once, right? So it's like this dude has fought a lot of, high level people. You know, he's fought just a lot, and that's the point. He's very experienced, he's very technical, and he has really good counters off of his back foot, which is what a lot of fighters do not have. So when Cirkunov is trying to go crazy with the blast double, I would not be surprised to see him get caught on the way in, man. Jocko is very technical, very precise, like I said, but he's got that touch him up style, man. He doesn't really have that, I'm going to sit down and just crack you with it. He's like, I'm just going to touch you up. I'm going to, just counter strike. And that's the problem though, right? We saw it against Sean Strickland. Is he just very... Kind of like what we're talking about for Cynthia Calvillo, just a little too accepting of being put on the back foot. You know, he's got good circling out, and he will, attack the center of the cage at times. But too often, if there's a pressure fighter, he'll just move in circles the whole fight, man. Foot in the tire. You already know what time it is, man. When we're talking about notable wins, AJ, Misha Cirkunov has a win over against Nikita Krylov. Did you know that?
Not off the top of my head, man. No, it wasn't his last 5, so nah.
Yeah, that's a dangerous fight. He has a win over Jan Kutalaba. Come on, man. Jimmy Crew. But Nikita Krylov is the big one, man. Nikita Krylov is such a good wrestler. He's such a, you know what I mean? So to come in and submit him, right? Submission round 1 for him. He's got a lot of first-round submissions, early-round submissions, man. So Jocko's going to have to be careful. I want to know what simulation, what alternate universe do you see where Jocko comes in and he just starches Cirkunov and it's not even close, man? Is that even a reality? Is that an option in the timeline?
One punch starch? I don't know, man. Not really, unless it just happens to be Misha Cirkunov coming in just full force. Doesn't really see it happening, and Jocko uses his power against him. Because Jocko, he's very much he likes to maintain the movement. He'll stay on his bike, likes to swing. But with the big problem I see with Jocko is he gets a little tired, and then he starts throwing those big looping shots. Everything starts getting labored, man. He's really, really swinging wild for the fences. He does have a big left hand, so he can get it done. I just don't really see it against Krzysztof Jocko, man.
Let me ask you, what does it mean to you that Krzysztof Jocko is 9-5 in the UFC? Does that have any significance to you?
9-5, man. All his losses came in because you said Krzysztof Jocko, right? All his losses have come in the UFC because he's 22-5, so that dude's fought a lot. Yeah, it's pretty significant because he's really starting to become really one of those middle of the ground fighters. He took Sean Strickland to a decision, which is a win in its own right. That dude didn't put you out. That's good, but you didn't get the dub. That's hard to say. So, especially against big names like Brad Tavares, other people like that, he's started to kind of wilter a little bit in Jocko anyway.
Yeah, man. I don't know if he's going to be able to get it done against Cirkunov for sure, but I'll tell you, he's a big man. He's big. He's moderately young, 32 years old, man. So there's still a lot of room for Jocko to continue to grow and to do all the good stuff, man. But he also has an 87% takedown defense, man, so we'll see where that factors into this fight, man. Big wins over Eric Anders and Marc-Andre Barriault. Those are really the big notable wins in his UFC tenure so far, really his MMA career. But I think this should be a fun one. If Cirkunov decides to let it stand up and bang, it might be a little bit of a slow dragger type if he just decides to lay on him the whole fight. But if he goes submission hunting, you got a lot of fun in store on that one, man. So I'm going Misha Cirkunov, unanimous decision. Who you got, AJ?
Man, I'm going this one. Actually, I've been going back and forth on this one constantly. Literally, I think this one's a little bit closer than 160, 135. I'm going Jocko by decision, man. I think Jocko gets this done. I think he's going to maintain that distance and maintain that, like we said, that circling around. He can get himself in a little bit of trouble, but against a wrestler, if you're constantly circling and they can't get the takedown, that's where that 86% takedown defense is going to come into play. And I think it's going either way. It's going to be a long fight, and it's going to a decision. But like I said, I got Krzysztof Jocko on this one.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, man. I mean, with Cirkunov making his middleweight debut, let's see where the speed is at, man. Jocko might be able to just be too fast for him, but when you're on the ground, none of that speed matters, right? So we'll see what happens, man. All right, AJ, moving forward. This is a fun one, man. We got Cowboy Alex Oliveira, who opened up as a plus 135 underdog to the minus 160 favorite in Nico the Hybrid Price. Now, this is a fun matchup, AJ. Not quite what I was expecting after Nico Price just came off of a loss to Michel Paeta and Alex Oliveira himself is coming off of a submission loss to Randy Brown, right? So, I don't know, AJ. This is an interesting trajectory for both of these fighters. I think Nico Price should be fighting higher caliber fighters, and I think Alex Oliveira, he's 2-3 in his last 5. Nico Price is 1-3 and no contest in their last 5. Do you think these fighters, why are they have so much hype, yet their records are so kind of like, in their last 5, man? Both of these fighters, we all know and love these guys. What do you think?
That's a really good question. I've never really thought about that one, Derek. I don't know, because I think it's because Nico Price, obviously everyone loves him because he's a blood and guts fighter. Mm-hmm. He's in it for the war. He's down. Even if he gets kicked in the nuts, he's down to trade. He's like, nah, I'm good. Let's keep it going. And Alex Oliveira, I feel like he came in very hot. Almost how Alexander Hernandez did, where he came in super hot. He's getting the dubs and then really started to falter going through and did not look good in either the Shavkat Rakhmonov fight or the Randy Brown fight. And I don't know if it's just an age thing. Probably not, because he's only 33 years old. But I don't know why, man. They're both fighters. Yeah, they're hyped. Like, everybody loves these fighters, but they kind of had a so-so showing as of late.
Well, my thought on this one is because they're both risk takers. I think that's what we all love to see, right? We love to see risk takers do their thing, man. And that's what really stands out to me in this Alex Oliveira kind of like this perspective of this fight. So for Oliveira, he keeps his hands really low. He got the crispy calf kicks. He's got the good jab. He's an elusive counter striker. But that's the problem in and of itself right there, is he is that counter striker who is willing to just sit back, and then go in, do something crazy, get caught, get knocked out, get dropped, whatever the case. Let's be honest here, AJ. Your last 2 outings, losses against Randy Rude Boy Brown and lost against Shavkat Rakhmonov, nothing to hang your hat on, man. I've been saying Rakhmonov is a dark horse to be a champion one day since his UFC debut. Like, this dude is a killer. Since his Dana White Contender Series, I was like, oh my God, this dude is going to... The moon is the limit, you know what I'm saying, on that one. Sky's the limit on that one. Now, for Nico Price, it's just... I don't know, man. It's really tough because he is that blood and guts fighter, but is that what your legacy is going to end on, just being that entertaining guy? It could be. I mean, we all know and love Donald Cowboy Cerrone, right? But he was never really a champion. He was that dude who was always down to bang out, to scrap, to short notice fight, whatever, a week's notice, whatever. Put me in there. I'm good, man. So my question before we actually get down to the nitty-gritty meat and potatoes of this, man, is like, where does the winner go after this, man? It's not like you can really, you're not in the top 15, you're not really advancing crazily, man. Like, what does a win do for either fighter in this matchup?
I think a win gets you your respect back on this one, really, more than anything. Like, just the biggest thing for both of these fighters, I think it gets them kind of back in that flow of like, all right, I do belong here, kind of sets their mental right. As far as what it does in the division, though, not really much, man. They're both kind of, I believe they're both unranked, if I'm not mistaken. And they're not really looking forward to much like growth from either of these fighters.
So let me ask you how telling this is, man. So the first fight that we talked about, the Alexander Hernandez versus Mike Bredon. Hernandez is on a 1-fight losing streak. Bredon won 2 fights in a row. All right, cool. And we're talking about Aspen Ladd, 1-fight win streak. Macy Chiasson, 2-fight win streak. All right, cool. But then it starts getting weird, right? Serkinov, 1-fight loss streak. Jocko, 1-fight loss streak. Alex Oliveira lost 2 in a row. Nico Price lost 2 in a row. And we're going to talk about the next one. Kevin Holland lost 2 in a row. Daukaus lost 1 in a row. Talk about Santos lost 3 in a row. Johnny Walker only won 1 in a row, man. So we got a lot of fighters who are either coming off of losses, just broke their losing streak. And I think that's what's weird about this is like, all right, let's match up these 2 guys who have both lost 2 in a row. Like, there's just interesting matchmaking on that end, which is why it kind of didn't make sense. But all right, nitty gritty, man. Alex Oliveira, he's going to counter strike. Nico Price is going to walk forward. We already know that. And we know Nico Price, what he lacks in not being non-technical on the feet and not being very fast. It's okay because he maintains the same pace over 3 rounds, the entire 3 rounds. We know Alex Cowboy Oliveira is dangerous as hell come the first round. Second and third, things start getting a little bit weird, right? You know, gas tank starts to falter a little bit, especially if there's a lot of grappling early on in the fight, because he is a good grappler, man. He's got 5 submissions under his belt. But I mean, how do you see this fight taking place, man? Is it going to be the classic Nico Price just walking forward, blood and guts, Alex Oliveira ends up getting dropped, all that good stuff? Or do you think Oliveira is going to say, I need to snap this losing streak, man. I need to walk forward. Something has to change. What do you think?
I definitely think Nico Price is going to lead the dance on this one, walk forward, maintain that pressure. But I don't know about Alex Oliveira getting KO'd super early, man. He's definitely needs this one a lot more than Nico Price, because both these fighters need this win for sure. But Alex Oliveira kind of really needs this fight to kind of cement himself. And really the only thing I've seen that's kind of like bad for Alex Oliveira, I mean, his style is, you know, hands low, counter striking, all that stuff. But he just seems to be a step behind the new dogs in the class. Like like
Sure.
the new guys have kind of caught up to him and gone a little bit past him, whereas Nico Price doesn't really fall into that category. So I feel like we're going to see an old school fight, maybe not an old school fight, but like a 2009 style fight where it's Alex Oliveira, Nico Price going at each other. I don't know if I see a finish here. What do you? Do you see one of these fighters finishing each other?
Yeah, I can definitely see a finish, man. I can see a finish from Nico Price finishing Oliveira more than I could see it the opposite. Even though Oliveira, he's got that one-shot power. He could drop you with one for sure, man. I want to ask you, who's a bigger risk taker, Oliveira or Price?
I want to say Price. I want to say Price is the bigger risk taker here, but Alex Oliveira, don't discount him because he does take those risks. He is willing to trade the shots to get the finish going. Nico Price he bites on his mouthpiece and goes for the head. So I definitely am going Nico Price. What do you think?
I think Nico Price is definitely the more dangerous fighter, but Alex Oliveira is just a step behind in that being dangerous and being a risk taker, you know what I mean? Because that's what he do. He'll stand there, hands low, and then just throw like a blind right cross into the fire and leave himself out there, you know what I mean? Like he's crazy like that. He'll throw a million calf kicks, set all that good stuff up. If you look at his last fight against Randy Brown, he dropped him with the calf kick early, man. Gave him like 3 or 4 good calf kicks, just dropped him early. So who is better when they're getting hit a bunch? Oliveira or Price?
Price for sure on that one for me, man. He's one of those fighters where he starts tasting some nickels and he really starts to like get pissed off and start fighting his really good fights. That's when you hurt Nico Price. That's when he's best, man. And I love that about him.
When it's a clean technical fight, who's better, Oliveira or Price?
Oliveira for sure. Well, and it's weird saying that the technical guy with his hands low is better, but he does have that crisp striking and he can hit you from anywhere, any angle too. Nico Price just isn't that technical on that one though.
So basically the peripherals of this matchup is all kind of leaning in favor of saying if Nico Price fights the fight that he normally fights, he has a very good shot at winning this, correct?
Yes. Oh yeah, 100%.
So minus 160, we taking it? What do you think?
Woo, I am taking it, Derick. I am taking the 160 dog on or this is not the dog. I bet that is my dog.
Yeah.
Nico Price, 160 minus 160 points on this one. I think it's going to be a fun fight, man. This one has some potential for the fight of the night. We'll see though, because it's going to be a good one, man. Nico Price, he's an absolute warrior of a fight, blood and guts. I'm rolling with my homie, the Nico Price, man, the hybrid. Who you got?
Well, how does he get it done?
Oh, I'm going decision.
Okay.
I think it's going to be long. I don't know if either fighter is going to be able to finish each other, but I'm going decision, Nico Price. What about you?
Well, I'm going to go decision as well for Nico Price. I just think that staying in your face style might be a little bit too much visually, optically for the judges if it does go to a decision. Alex Oliveira, you can't win fights just moving backwards the whole time, counter-punching. Even though for the hardcores we're watching, like, no, man, he was more effective striking, all that in the eyes of the judges. They're like, okay, well, you were running the whole fight. That's part of literally the scoring, right? Octagon control, aggressiveness, all that, right? And we look in his last 5, yeah, he got submitted twice, against Rachmanov and against Randy Brown, but the other 3 losses are split decisions and decision losses, man. So, I don't know. It should be a fun one, though. I think this should definitely be a fun one. And Alex Oliveira, man, always down to scrap. Nico Price, always down to scrap. I'm excited about this fight, man, but we can move on. All right, we got co-main event here, AJ. Big Mouth or Trailblazer or the man hailing out of Hendrickson, man, Kevin Holland, number 14th ranked middleweight, who is a minus 150 favorite, kind of surprisingly, with the plus 125 comeback against Little Daukaus, Kyle Daukaus, man, little bro sitting there in the middleweight division. Now, big brother Chris Daukaus, he's doing some things, man. He's lighting the UFC on fire right now. But Little Daukaus, man, he's gonna have to come in little. I just say that just because he's a little brother, you know what I mean? He's a big man. Don't get me wrong. But listen, like I said, he's coming off of a loss. Kevin Holland's coming off of 2 losses, which you can't really knock him against, right? Marvin Vettori and Derek Brunson. He's number 14th, but he just lost to 2 top 5 fighters right there, so there's really nothing to hang your hat on. But for Kyle Daukaus, who's a wrestler, who's a submission guy, he just lost to another wrestler, but he was a power wrestler in Phil Hawes, man, Megatron right there. AJ, man, am I crazy to think that Kevin Holland should not be favored in this fight?
No, you're not crazy, especially because the way we've seen Kevin Holland lose, that's the best way Kyle Daukaus gets it done. And Kyle Daukaus got hands too.
Oh,
but
yeah.
The thing is, he's not really known for really either or. He's very much so can do it all at any point. So he's not really a specialist. So I think that's why they're kind of favoring Kyle Daukaus on this one. Kevin Holland on this one. If Kyle Daukaus was a little bit more of a wrestling specialist, I think they'd have a little bit closer of a line. What do you think?
Well, I think that Kevin Holland, being the enigma that he is, being capable of doing crazy things like knocking out Jacare Souza, you feel me? Like putting it on when he got the neck slam on Charlie Ontiveros, right? Where dude just gave the verbal tap, or getting the win over the dentist, Darren Stewart. I think that those anomalies, those crazy parts of his fight, and then losing so definitively to Brunson and Vettori, I think there's still a little of that recency bias. And Daukaus isn't a big name. Kevin Holland kind of is, right? But don't get me wrong. I think Kevin Holland has a really good chance to win this fight, especially he's been working on that takedown defense with Johnny Hendricks over there with DC at AKA. But I think this is a trap game type matchup, AJ. And what I mean by that is I think Kyle Daukaus is being undercounted, underrated, discounted, the whole entire nine. And I think that he's probably, I'm pretty sure he was training with his big brother for Daukaus's last camp, big brother Daukaus's last camp. So you're dealing with the big boys, man, but you're not dealing with anyone long and rangy like a Kevin Holland. So if this fight stays on the feet, AJ, let's talk about it a little bit. Does Kevin Holland do the classic Kevin Holland and use the big right hand to smother his attack and get right into a takedown? Or will we see a more composed, distance management Kevin Holland? What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a very much composed Kevin Holland on this one. And, he's been working, like you said, I forgot the name he was calling, Hendrick Stan. There
Hendrick Stan, yep.
Yeah, great. And Kevin Holland's the ultimate persona. You got to love this dude. But we'll see how well he's doing. He knows he's not going to want to be taken down. He was saying something. He's like, go ahead, shoot that blast double. Go ahead. Just don't shoot this other one. I'm not going to tell you that.
Yeah.
But, so there's definitely, he kind of feels like there's holes in his game. He's been working towards it. He's been trying to get it done, which is what you got to do, especially like he says, he's a company man. So he's down to fight whoever, whenever. But I think he's going to be a little bit more composed and just rushing and trying to get the big win and then end up getting taken down. It's how he doesn't want to get it done like he did in the last two fights. So I think we'll see a little bit of a little bit more docile, maybe not docile is a good word, but composed Kevin Holland. What do you think?
Well, I'd agree with you, but I think that kind of takes away an element of his game, a big element of his game, actually, because part of what makes Kevin Holland so crazy is he's erratic, man. He does just wild shit, you know what I mean? Those crazy spinning kicks, those big leaping side kicks, right? He has this unorthodox rhythm that allows him to kind of like leap into a crazy right hand, hit you from across the fucking cage. You know what I mean? He's able to do just like these weird maneuvers. And if he's more relaxed and composed and just sitting back and just trying to be patient, trying to be like a point fighter, that just takes away a big element of his game that I think makes him so successful. So that's what's tough, right? Is he got fans saying, oh, we don't want Big Mouth, we want Trailblazer. But Big Mouth is partially why he wins the fight, because he's talking shit to you. He's smacking you in your face. Against Thiago Santos, when he got taken down, he literally just bitch slapped Santos, right? He's getting his face smashed in and shit from the bottom, but it's just like, who does that? He just sits back and just being like, yep, just bitch slaps him, just like, all right, what's up? You know what I'm saying? So I think the funness of Kevin Holland needs to be there in order for him to be successful. But let's talk about the threat of the submission for Kyle Daukaus. Let's say inevitably the fight hits the ground, Daukaus is searching for submissions. My question to you is, how come Marvin Vettori and Derick Brunson have been so successful in being able to knock both of their respective opponents out via ground and pound, or submit somebody, or do whatever? Why are they able to finish these other high caliber fighters, but they have not been able to finish Kevin Holland? He's never been knocked out. He's only been submitted twice, and in his last 5, his 2 losses have been via unanimous decision. So what do you think about that?
I think it's a mental thing for Kevin Holland. He's not gonna get finished. It's more so, yeah, sure, you can touch the button and turn it off, but I don't think Kevin Holland's gonna allow that to happen mentally. He's just gonna keep fighting through. Even if you do knock him out, you hit him with the next one, it's gonna wake him right back up. I think it's more so he's just a dog, and it's hard to finish him more than the other guys can't get it done. Because we've seen both Marvin Vettori and Derick Brunson get the finishes on people, more so Vettori than Brunson. But I think it's just a mental thing for Kevin Holland on this one. What do you think?
Gotcha. The Brunson slander continues, as always, with our guy AJ. But listen, man, I don't know, man. I think that the submission threat is going to be real from Kyle Daukaus. I think that this dude is slick, bro. He has a very active Brazilian jiu-jitsu guard. And the big thing about this is, let's say Kevin Holland gets a little overconfident and says, oh, I'm going to top control you. I'm going to get on top of you. Kyle Daukaus has slick BJJ transitions and sweeps, man. And I'll tell you, man, this is what I'm learning firsthand. You can have a smaller guy on you, a dude who's less powerful than you. If he gets his positioning, if he gets the hook on your leg, completely just sweep you over and get top control on you, man. And there's like you're like flying in the air, like, how the fuck did this happen? Like, I had incredible top control, man. I had the head and arm, I had everything. It just swept me over. So it'll be fun, a fun matchup for sure. Both of these dudes are 6'3", but there's a big discrepancy in terms of the reach, man. 81 inches for Kevin Holland, 76 for Kyle Daukaus, and I think that's gonna play a big factor because on the feet, Kevin Holland, we know that right hand is a rocket ready to just explode, man. We know this for sure, for facts. You know what I'm saying? So let's say this fight stays on the ground. Kyle Daukaus got mean straight punches too. Who has the true edge in technical striking, AJ?
I'd probably say Kyle Daukaus on this one, man. He's a little bit more technical, at least initially. Kevin Holland, one of his biggest things, you said it before, what makes him best is that kind of unpredictability, that kind of swagger, that style that he has that doesn't really come down from the straight punches. Although the straight punches, that straight right hand is absolutely mean down the pipe. And it's hard to say, though. This one's a lot closer than just a black and white. Kyle Daukaus has the advantage striking, technique-wise. It's very, very close. Who do you think?
You know what, man? I would say Kyle Daukaus is a little more technical, but Kevin Holland's stand-up is more dangerous. You remember when he licked his hand and then dropped Joaquin Buckley with the right hand, man? Like that type shit, right? Where he's literally, he just licks it, boom, done. You know, what are you going to do, right? I just think that the way he uses his leverage and the way he leans his body is something that Kyle Daukaus doesn't do. So Kevin Holland can hit Daukaus from places where Daukaus can't hit Kevin Holland. So that's going to be what really comes down to it. But let's say the fight gets to the ground. You can do amazing jiu-jitsu if you're not getting punched in the face, right? They say like a black belt, every time you punch a black belt in the face, they go brown belt, purple belt, blue belt, white belt, right? Like you start losing it because BJJ, man, you can go into a lot of positions where you're not getting hit, where in MMA, that's just not the case. We know Kevin Holland has one of the most active ground and pound, I guess, from the bottom. If I don't even know what you call it, but when he's on his back, he's smacking you, elbows, mean elbows. He's slapping you in your ears, you know what I mean? Trying to get your eardrum to burst, He's doing all of those crazy little things that'll kind of discourage you from trying to do your jiu-jitsu in advance and instead just rely on top control, which is partially why I think that he hasn't been getting finished against these strong wrestlers. But he does only have a 47% takedown defense. So let's hope that Hendrick camp has been working out for him a little bit. And let's talk about notable wins just before we conclude, man. Kyle Daukaus, he's only 1-2 in the UFC, man. He's not very experienced at the big show. And his only big win is against Dustin Stoltzfus, who is a good wrestler, but we saw the stand-up is there's much to be desired there. Now, for Kevin Holland, he's got wins over Alicio DeCirco, Joaquin Buckley, Anthony Hernandez, excuse me. That's Fluffy. Remember the dude who submitted Rodolfo Vieira? Come on, dude. To be able to, I think he just hit him with a knee, dropped him, and just got him out of there, man. It was beautiful. Knocked out Jacare Souza, and then, got the split decision win against the dentist, Darren Stewart, which is not really as impressive anymore because I do think he got cut, to be honest with you, man, which is a sad day for the dentist, man. For me, personally, because it was one of my guys. I've been praising the dentist for quite some time. So, AJ, listen, Daukaus got Bravo chokes. He could hit you with rear nakeds, arm bars, everything, man. But let's just give it. Who's the pick, man? Who is the pick on this one, AJ? And then let's talk about the line after. Who's the pick for you?
You want to talk about a hard pick, Derick? I was going back and forth for the other fight, but man, this one is a very hard one to choose for me. I'm a huge fan of both these dudes. You already know if you're a fan of this podcast, man. I love the Daukaus fan, man, and Kevin Holland, same thing, man. I'm a huge Kevin Holland fan. I hope he brings that kind of swagger he has and that old school style of fighting. We're gonna see some ground game. Personally, though, I'm going Kyle Daukaus with the decision win. I don't think he's going to be able to finish Kevin Holland, and I don't think Kevin Holland's going to be able to finish Kyle Daukaus. He might. He has a better chance of it. But I'm going Kyle Daukaus by decision. I think this one's going to be a grinder of a fight, and we're going to see some up and down. We're going to see that ground game tested to Kevin Holland in the future, man.
I'm going Kevin Holland on this one, man. Believe it or not. All this that I've been talking, I've been praising Kyle Daukaus, telling you how dangerous he is. I'm picking Big Mouth on this one. Big Mouth / Trailblazer. And here's the reason why, man. I am not giving up on the talent that is Kevin Holland. I'm not, man. It's like people forget so quickly, man. This dude was a top 10 fighter just like a couple months ago, right? And now he's number 14. And now people are like, oh, this dude, he can't wrestle. He's just going to lose and all that stuff, man. It's not just wrestling that's the game. You got to, every round starts out on the feet. You always tell me that, right? So Kevin Holland has as good a chance as anybody else, especially if he cannot smother his attack. That's the big catalyst right there. I think Kevin Holland can be a true contender in this division, man. He just needed to take himself a little more seriously, you know what I mean? Be a little more professional in there. And once he does that, man, listen, there's let's not forget, I think was it against Vittorio or Brunson where he threw a kick and he slipped on the mat and then he lost the round because he was controlled on the mat the whole time. That was just like one of those just like sloppy mistakes, you know what I mean? Where it's like you can't be doing that stuff, right? So if he's a little more composed but still erratic in his fight style, I think Kevin Holland gets it done, and I think he gets it done via knockout, man, because Kyle Daukaus, even though he has never been knocked out, he has been hurt before, man. He's been put in some spots, and that length, I think it's just going to give him problems, man. So I'm going against the grain. I'm not going to lie to you. I probably wouldn't throw the minus 150 on Kevin Holland, man. I think the true value is plus 125 on Kyle Daukaus, and I don't even know what the prop is for a submission win for Daukaus, but go find that out and throw a little bit of money on that because that's the contrarian play, man. You know what I mean? All the hype is on Kevin Holland. The odds will probably get even closer towards the end of the fight or towards closer to the fight, but I'm going Kevin Holland on that one, and you cannot convince me otherwise. So that's my pick for the co-main, AJ. And now, the main event. Maheta, number 5 ranked Thiago Santos, is a minus 170 favorite, man, against the plus 145 number 10 ranked Johnny Walker in the light heavyweight division, AJ. Let's talk about the odds first. Would you agree? Minus 170 for Santos, plus 145 for Johnny Walker. What do you think about that?
I think they should be a little bit closer, man. I don't really know. I mean, Santos is coming off the 2 losses, and then he did look, or the 3 losses, excuse me. I forgot the John Jones L. But he's an absolute marauder. You just look at the man, you think, yeah, this dude can win any fight you put him up against. And Johnny Walker, as much shenanigans as he had in the beginning of his career, he's really started to tone it down. And we were talking last week about the Ryan Spann fight, where it kind of just happened, like the KO kind of just happened. I was watching the fight again, man, and when Ryan Spann was shooting those takedowns, it started off with hammer fist, and then it kind of rolled again, and then when he shot down for a takedown, that's when he hit him with the elbow. I don't think it was as sporadic as we were leading on. I think it was a little bit more, he saw his opening, he saw that ear, and he went and took his shots. I'm a little surprised at the 170 to 145. I definitely think once the fight starts getting a little bit closer and things start, kind of everyone's mind starts leveling out, they'll get a little bit closer on this one. What do you think?
Well, I kind of agree. I think Santos should be the favorite in this fight just because of the wild man that is Johnny Walker. Like, he's a wild man, bro. And that's part of, like, that's what wins him fights, but that's what loses him fights as well, is because you watch him. Technical, that's not in the category of Johnny Walker, right? He's just wild, crazy, and he'll throw a head kick and then bring a spinning back fist right off the top. And he's caught opponents doing stuff like that, man. He throws crazy knees, right? He does the worm after the fight and dislocates his shoulder and then has to, be out for some time, man. I just think Johnny Walker, like, the advantage of being unpredictable and being like, I'm gonna hit you with some crazy shit, also leaves him so out of position, man. I'm talking about hands are like down, head just out, and it's like, how have you not been knocked out a million times? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. But if we're talking about his resume, man, 18-5 in MMA, 4-2 in the UFC, 15 knockouts, 2 submissions, 1 decision. Now for Maheta, for Thiago Santos, 15 KOs as well, right there, man. 1 submission, 5 decisions, 21-9 in his MMA career, 13-8 in his UFC career. And those 3 losses, AJ, 1 against the greatest light heavyweight who's ever done it in John Jones, which was a split decision loss, which a lot of people thought Santos won the fight. He got submitted by Glover Teixeira, which was a very close fight until Teixeira, started working him. And then you lose a fight to Alexander Rakic, who is arguably one of the best kickboxers in the light heavyweight division. So I think there's nothing to hang your hat on because who did he get the win over, AJ? The current light heavyweight champion. He knocked him out, actually, right in the 3rd round. So there's something very telling about that. And Jimmy Manuwa, man, knocked him out. Blast from the past, Jimmy Manuwa. Shout out to him, man. But that goes to show just kind of how inactive Santos has been over the years. And also, John Jones is when he tore up one of his knees completely and then had like a partial ACL tear in the other knee. And he also had like a kind of a broken tibia in one of the legs. So he's lost both fights since then. This would be his 3rd fight back since those surgeries, AJ. I want to ask you, do you think now maybe he can start to find his groove? It's kind of tough, man. Double knee surgery. It's going to take a couple fights before you get back to your old self if you ever return there. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think if there's ever a time, it has to be now, especially with the dude that's not as technically or fundamentally strong like Johnny Walker isn't. He's giving you the option to be able to fight your fight on this one, and why I think Santos has a good shot going forward on this one, man. Johnny Walker, he's in the same class of fighter as Michel Pereira too. Very, very entertaining, very wild, and that's what leaves the door open for Santos to really get a dub on this one. Santos, he's very dangerous, even though, like I said, he's on those 3 L streaks, and it is time for him to finally come back and get this one, man, going. What do you think?
I agree, man. I think Santos is those fundamentals, that being a little more poised, being a little more technical. Santos is a wild man too, don't get me wrong, but if he can just exploit those openings on Johnny Walker, man, just hit him with the big overhand right, hit him with the big head kick, it's going to be a very early night, man, for both of these fighters. Now, imagine, bro, this fight taking place in Brazil. These are 2 Brazilians. This should be headlining a Brazil card. Am I right?
Oh yeah, man, that would be crazy too. Although I feel like they don't like to do two Brazilians against each other. Usually they throw a
Yeah.
Brazilian against an American, and
Yeah,
then
right.
the Brazilian crowds go crazy, start throwing stuff at the octagon, all
Yeah.
that. But either way, you get both these fighters with their huge fan base in Brazil. It'd be a huge fight.
What does it mean to you, AJ, that Johnny Walker is a specimen of a human being? 6'5", 82-inch reach. I mean, longest damn reach in the UFC, damn near. I think there may be only one fighter who has a longer reach than him. Do you think Santos is going to have any problems? Because he's a big man too, man. 6'2" with a 76-inch reach. Do you think that's going to give him some issues?
I don't think so. I feel like as much as, or yeah, it'll definitely give him some issues, especially that long reach. But I feel like Santos has this way of nullifying the reach with pressure.
True.
If you are hitting him, you're hitting him like not all the way on the full strike. You're actually hitting him like midway, 3/4 of the way. So he's able just to walk through it. And we saw if you're able to walk through a torn ACL and a torn and a partially torn other ACL, you got 2 knee injuries and a broken tibia. You're able to walk through John Jones's strikes, man. You can walk through a lot of things.
Let's talk about mental fortitude, man. Thiago Santos is a former paratrooper. You know what I'm saying? Like, this dude is like, I'm leaving it all. Like, I'm ready to die today for my job, And so being in the UFC, I just think that it's been tough outing for Team Maheta as of recently, man. Yana Kunitskaya dropped her last one. He's dropped 3 in a row. Kunitskaya is about to have a baby, so she's going to be inactive. So now he's got to really show up and do something, right? Because both of them are fighters. Somebody's got to bring in that cash money. What it comes down to for me, AJ, is that I think that Santos has one element that Walker is very vulnerable to, and that's the wrestling, man. Santos could wrestle. And Johnny Walker, we saw him against Nikita Krylov, man. What's the number one way to get rid of that power or to tire him out and then start working him in the later rounds? Wrestling him out, man. Get that lactic acid build up in the arms and legs with Johnny Walker. Do you think Santos will be able to get that done against Walker, be able to just get him up against the cage and just drop him down, get that top control? What do you think?
Yep, that's exactly how I see this fight going. If you're Santos, man, look to control the octagon, apply that pressure all day, get Walker to the edge of the cage, get into the side of the octagon, really shoot that blast double, get the takedown, just really start working that lactic acid, like you said. I mean, on paper, that's what seems smart for Santos.
Sure.
It's just, can you get it done in the octagon, not necessarily on paper?
Well, would you argue that Santos shouldn't just stand up and try to have like a kickboxing match with Johnny Walker? You think that would be a bad idea?
I mean, Santos is an amazing striker, so I don't think it's a bad idea for him to do that.
No.
I just think Johnny Walker's so unpredictable that's where the instability lies. That's where, like, all right, do we want to place a big gamble, or do we want to go more clowning on Brunson? Do we want to go the Derick Brunson route and really go the safe route and get a takedown and get a dub, man? You need that payday.
He needs the win, so I think that's definitely going to be an option of his. It might be the approach of, well, let's wrestle early and then kickbox as the fight goes on. I mean, this is a 5-round fight, man, so you got a lot of time to work with on this one. And we know Santos, he did it against John Jones. I don't know if his fight against Teixeira was 3 rounds or 5 rounds, but he can do 5 rounds. Against Rakic, I think that was only 3 rounds too. So, listen, there's just much to be desired for me for Johnny Walker and his defense, man. He has very little defense. His offense is his defense, pretty much. You know what I mean? Like, he'll say, like, fuck the defense, I'll just knock you out instead. How about that? Both of these dudes, 15 knockouts, we already talked about. But let's talk about, once again, AJ, we got to do it. Notable wins right here. For Thiago Santos, he has wins over Jan Blachowicz, Nate Marquardt, Kevin Holland, Eric Anders, the Lionheart, Anthony Smith, and every single one of those fighters that I just named besides Kevin Holland, he knocked out. Also very telling for Kevin Holland. Didn't get knocked out by Santos either. Come on, what are we talking about? Now, for Johnny Walker, it's a little less, AJ, and this is what's surprising is he's very hyped up, but you look at his notable wins. You have a knockout against Misha Serkinov, shout out. All right, we were already talking about the big man. Knocked out Khalil Roundtree, that's another big one, but Khalil Roundtree has been very up and down in his career. And then knocked out Ryan Spann with those elbow shots, right? So when we're talking about like who have you fought and the type of people who you've had these big wins over, they're not nearly the same caliber as Thiago Santos, which is once again why all losing streaks are not created equal, all win streaks are not created equal. And these fighters, man, they're different, man. Santos has 30 career fights. Johnny Walker, he's got 23 career fights. They're kind of close, but Santos has been doing this thing in the UFC for a long time, man. He is 21 fights deep into the UFC, AJ. So experience, I think Santos got it. Erratic nature, unpredictability, Johnny Walker got it. And sometimes that's what wins you fight. So let's talk about the line one more time. Minus 170 for Santos, plus 145 for Johnny Walker. Is this a fight where you say, plus 145, I like the erratic nature enough to take a bet on this fight? What do you think?
Yeah, I am. I am personally. I
Yep.
definitely think this one, man, I want Santos to win this fight. I truly want Thiago Santos to win this fight. I think he deserves it. I think his style on paper leads to more success than Johnny Walker. When you're that unpredictable thing, well, another unpredictable thing is you get KO'd. That's
absolutely.
When the punches start flying and you don't have your hands up, man, you could easily get knocked out. It just hasn't happened. It did against Corey Anderson to Johnny Walker, but very few and far between. Johnny Walker's he's very durable. But personally, yeah, I'll like I said, I'll let the cat out of the bag already, man. I'm going Johnny Walker, and I'm going KO round 4. I don't think it's going to be a hard fight. I want Santos to win. I just think the youthfulness and the streak that Johnny Walker's been going on, it's going to be a hard road to toll against him. Who you got and why, Derek?
Well, you know what, AJ? I do not see this fight going the distance. It'd be very difficult to see this fight actually going 5 full rounds unless Santos or Walker decides we're just going to wrestle and we're not going to actually, kickbox and do that. So I see this being pretty early stoppage, man. I'm going Thiago Santos, TKO round 2. I think he just catches Walker with something crazy, man. I think Walker leaves himself exposed, tries to do a crazy kick to a spinning back fist, and then just gets caught with a kick and drop TKO finish. I think this has to be the return of Marreta, not Thiago Santos, of Marreta. And the reason why I say that is because the man is 37 years old, man. And if you lose 4 in a row at 37, regardless of who you're fighting, this is arguably a big step down from his recent opposition. So if he does not get the job done, or if he gets finished in this fight, man, we might be looking at the end of the days of Marreta. But he's a fixture in the UFC, has been for a long time. I think he will remain, and I think this is going to be a big bounce-back win for Thiago Santos, another KO in the books. So that's the picks for the main card, folks. All 6 bouts. We gave you some sleepers. We talked about some prelims. We did the whole entire 9. So do us a favor. Drop a like, subscribe, rate us 5 stars wherever you get your podcasts on, and drop some comments, man. Let us know how you feeling about the show. Let us know how we doing, whether you agree, whether you would disagree, whatever the case may be. Follow us on Instagram at Bloody Water Podcast and on Twitter at Bloody Water Pod. And if you're just looking for the hub for everything, bloodywaterpodcast.com. That's the hub. You already know, AJ. But we got one more piece of business, my man. We got to hit the fight of the night. So you already talked about a couple sleepers. You're like, hey, this could be a fight of the night. This one, so we'll see. Who is your pick, AJ, for fight of the night for UFC Vegas 38?
My pick for fight of the night, Derek, I'm going all the way back down to the prelims, man. I'm going Douglas Andraj versus Gianto Piriello. Probably butchered that name, but either way, homie can bang. It's going to be a fun fight. And it's with the 2 little dudes, so I think this one's going the distance. I think there's going to be a lot of blood on the canvas once they get done. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. Who's your fight of the night, Derek?
I'm going back to your sleeper, my man. I'm going Devonte Smith versus Jamie Mullarkey. And the reason why is because Devonte Smith, quick finisher, fast hands, all the fun stuff, but Mullarkey has that grit, man, that tenacity and the will to win. And I think he's going to draw that out of Devonte Smith, It's going to be a banger, man. I'm just telling you, for a prelim fight, not even to be the featured prelim, man. This is the 4th fight of the prelims. Come on, what are we talking about? This is going to be a banger, and this could easily have either performance of the night or fight of the night. Stakes at hand right there, man. So that's just about everything, folks, man. Listen, AJ, like I was saying earlier, we got the MVP and Douglas Lima fight to be looking forward to, man. Bellator action in London. It's going to be a fun one. Now, the rest of the card, it's a little lackluster. I'm not going to lie to you, man. I was looking over it and I was like, okay, you got one really good fight. And that's the difference between the UFC and Bellator or all these other promotions, right? All these other promotions will have like one really good fight. And then, UFC, we're talking about fight of the night on the prelims, right? Come on. There's been times where fight of the night has literally been the first fight on the prelims in the UFC. So it's very incredible to see. But this is going to be a big stakes fight, man. Heavy stakes, heavy implications. We went over a little more in depth, folks, the betting lines and how we feel about these specifically when we're talking about money lines. Now, we didn't get into parlays, we didn't get into props, all that good stuff, but I will throw out, if you are interested in an underdog prop, man, I think you go Kyle Daukaus and Macy Chiasson, throw those 2 together, man, and you might have a big play on your hands. Otherwise, just have some fun, man. Don't spend no money that you don't have, folks. All the regular gambling rules that you must abide by. AJ, you told me that your pops used to tell you a little something in terms of gambling, man. What was the advice he gave you?
Man, never bet the rent. Don't bet the rent, brother. If you're going to spend some money, go ahead, do your thing. But if you make sure you pay your bills first A lot of people, even myself, man, I used to have a big gambling problem. I'm down to bet money all day, but don't bet the rent, man. Make sure you can pay your bills out there, folks.
That's it. That's really the rules to live by, man. Don't spend money you don't got. That's what it comes down to. You got a little extra pocket change, say, I'm gonna throw a little something, man. You got some NFL games going on, let me throw a little, whatever. If you smart, you'll do what we do here in the grassroots program, and you'll throw $10 on a 5-fight parlay, fuck around and win $100-something. You know what I'm saying? You start out small. It's all right. You don't got to go everything $100, $200, but if you're feeling confident, throw the green down. And listen, you got to risk it to get the biscuit, folks. So that'll be it for us here on the Bloody Water Podcast. 8 a.m. Mondays and Fridays. Tune back in, folks, on Monday for the post show. Should be a fun one. We will be recapping the aftermath. And listen, man, me and Asia, we're still neck and neck in this year-long competition, man. Winner will have something nice at the end of the year. I'll just leave it at that. I showed you a little cheap something earlier, AJ. I got a little something nicer that's going to be coming in. It'll be a surprise, man. We'll find out when the time comes, man. So, all right, folks, that's it for us. Until next time. Peace.